Now, why are Socratic definitions so important? So important for Plato, so important for Socrates? Well, first of all, they are objective. They represent reality. That's the way things really are. Now remember, the Sophists were relativists. They were moral relativists. They were relativists about knowledge in general. Remember Protagoras, man is the measure of all things. Whatever I decide is true for me. In the moral sphere as well. Well, Socrates thought that this stuff was that position, that relativism, was definitely wrong. He was opposed to the moral relativist of the Sophists, and that is why his definitions were so important. He thought that there were objective moral standards. There were standards that could be discovered. They were knowable. That there were right and wrong answers to moral questions that went beyond mere opinion and popular sentiment. I mean, and this is pretty critical. Today in academia, in the United States, 21st century American, relativism, especially moral relativism, seems to be the dominant position. Well, this is a position that Socrates, and Plato for that matter, thought was dead wrong. And that's why his definitions, Socrates' definitions, were so important to him. In addition to which, they played an important part in knowledge. Right? It's not just the definitions divide up reality, but they're fundamental to knowledge. And he said that, or he at least claimed, Socrates, that until you know what a thing is, you can't answer any other question about it. So when he was asking people about, all kinds of other questions, he would fundamentally bring them back and say, well, you tell me the thing is just, don't tell me anything more about justice. Tell me what is justice. In this case, Euthyphro, you tell me everything is pious. What is piety? What are we talking about? And thus, an inquiry into any moral question assumes that you have an answer to the what is X question. What is piety? If you know what something pious is, that assumes that you can identify and define what is piety or what is justice. Not just that there is an answer, but if you have knowledge, you know what the answer is. And that's why Socrates didn't have any knowledge. He wasn't sure what the correct definitions were, and he was always examining the people that he was meeting with about what they are. So, for example, in the dialogue, the Meno, Socrates claims that you can't answer any question about virtue. That is the question, can virtue be taught? Until you know the answer to the more fundamental question is, what is virtue? Because how could you know if it's taught or not if you can't even identify it? And in general, he thought that a person's having knowledge involving a certain concept, X, piety, justice, depends on his knowing the correct answer to the what is X question. Now, finally, the answers, the Socratic definitions, are fundamental to morality. That is, he thought that the possibility of morality, having a good moral character, behaving morally, depended on knowledge. In fact, this is a central Socratic doctrine. That is, virtue is knowledge. If you know what is right, you'll do what is right. You'll do the right thing. If you're not doing what's right, it's because you don't have knowledge. Knowing the Socratic definition seems to be necessary and sufficient for moral behavior. Just to repeat, if somebody does something morally wrong, it's because they don't know any better, and the answer to it is they are, according to Socrates, in need of education. If they have the education, they will know what the right thing is to do.